Good day to all you fellow mates and adventurers. My name is Mordecai, and welcome to the Institute of Supernatural Arcane Affairs. I will be your narrator for today, where we analyse various RPG-related stories for potential considerations that can be applied to tabletop role-playing. One of the best aspects about the more independent tabletop RPG scene is the wide variety of systems that are designed to accommodate different playstyles and methodologies for the experienced. A game played with the more mainstream Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition will play very differently from a Blades in the Dark or GLOG campaign. These different systems focus on different core aspects between each of them, which is what makes the variety enticing, especially to even experienced players. For example, GLOG is often considered to be a low-power version of 5th edition, with characters that peak at level 4 being an equivalent to a level 2 Dungeons & Dragons character, which in a way mitigates the interpretive focus on power fantasy that can be present at the table. This is part of the reason why Dungeon Masters need to consider what kind of feeling they want their campaign to convey to the players, and how best to go about conducting such a campaign. This may in some cases necessitate changing systems, a process which can be smooth if done correctly, but can be ruinous to a campaign long term. So how does switching systems wreck the campaign in today's story? Let's find out as we embark on another delve. Before we begin with today's story, if you like my content or want to support the channel, feel free to subscribe and leave a like on the video. It's free to do, and every bit of support is highly appreciated. Plus, you can always change your mind at a later date. For now, please enjoy. Let's delve into the often terrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Today's narrative is titled The DM Who Switched Systems to Avoid High-Level Players, and is written by Reddit user Darkwater0. So, I was in a campaign that lasted about 12 months. I was playing an elf wizard named Xenus, and he was fun to play. We began in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and had a fun time. We began at level 1 and crawled our way to level 3 after 4 months of playing. About 10 to 15 sessions, I think. Before the campaign, the DM did explain that he was going to use a milestone-style leveling system. That was a bit slow, but he didn't mention that he was going to be stingy with monetary and magic rewards as well. His campaign was complex, with overlapping stories, but a lot of the time, we would meet other NPCs who were poor and needed our financial aid, and we had to make the choice between helping others or buying 1 to 2 healing potions that we desperately needed. After 4 months, a player had to leave and we needed to recruit a replacement. Whilst there were 4 players, occasionally we'd have 1 to 2 people absent. This new player was enthusiastic, funny, and a keen Pathfinder enthusiast. No complaints about it. It turned out that 2 of the other players were also interested in Pathfinder, and the DM had experience running Pathfinder before, so after a few sessions, he agreed to switch over to Pathfinder. He switched over to Pathfinder just at the point where we were going to level up, so we assumed he'd let us make level 4 Pathfinder characters. We turned out to be wrong. After a couple of weeks of preparation, the DM hosted a session 0 for the new game, and explained that we'd be making level 1 Pathfinder characters, because a level 1 Pathfinder character was much more powerful than a level 1 D&D 5th edition character. We agreed to this because it seemed like a good way to teach me, and the other non-Pathfinder player, the new system. This is where I started having problems. There was only 1 copy of the rulebook, the new players, and the DM would basically hold onto it for the entirety of the sessions. It was clear that he was less familiar with the rules than he had claimed, and no one else was willing to help me or the other non-Pathfinder player learn our new characters. I was still the elf wizard mentioned earlier. With the switchover, the tempo of the sessions shifted dramatically. Combat became a lot slower, especially as we all looked up the rules more often, and the actual story shifted into being more political with less personal roleplay between characters. On top of all of this, it took us another 4 months to get from level 1 to level 4 again. In that time, we had a period of a few sessions where I and another player lost our connection to magic and was basically depowered for a while. This annoyed me at the time, but once it was over, I was okay with it. Eventually, we all decided we'd prefer to go back to 5th edition. We came to the DM as a group and asked about switching back to 5th edition, and he seemed relieved. After our last session wrapped up, we sat around and had an informal conversation about the switch to 5th edition, and how we'd treat gained magic items and other stuff. He told us that we'd have to give up our magic items, which we agreed to facilitate the changeover. But he also told us that we'd go back to being level 3 5th edition characters. Needless to say, we were very unhappy. This felt unjustified, and the conversation quickly escalated into an argument. Eventually, he conceded to making us level 4 5th edition characters, but it definitely left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. We went back to 5th edition and played 2 more sessions before a nonsense magical effect led to all of us losing our equipment and having to run around in a dungeon without weapons or arcane focuses. At this point, especially after I'd already experienced the lost my connection to magic story, we gave up and let the campaign die quietly. In summary, the DM switched from 5th edition to Pathfinder 2nd edition and bounced our level 3 characters down to level 1. We switched back later and our level 4 Pathfinder characters were almost bounced down to level 3 D&D characters. And that's where the story ends. Before I delve into the analysis on what went wrong with the system switching, there is a need to take a bit of a delve into a bit of history regarding Critical Role's first campaign. If you watched the first episode on the Geek and Sundry channel, where Critical Role was originally hosted, you will quickly notice that the characters are all starting at roughly level 9. In the context of the meta surrounding how the campaign started airing, they had actually switched systems twice, with the original system being Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition. It switched the first version of Pathfinder for a period of time, leading up to the broadcast of the first livestream, where it then switched over to 5th edition. I bring this up as an example of how system switching by itself may not result in the long-term collapse of a campaign. This does, however, provide a little perspective into the real reason why the system switching caused the downfall of this particular game. It being used as a method to continually nerf high-level characters, which only barely reached level 4 out of 20 across both 5th edition and Pathfinder. When switching systems, a point of consideration is preserving character power, a process which can be made a lot harder if the conversion cannot be described as a one-to-one mathematical operation. I mean, maybe in terms of computational theory, but then I come across as a tryhard who uses words like loquacious with no context for a bad joke. The point is that when switching systems, one should maintain the proper power equivalence. Like, I may not know how a 5th edition character compares to a Pathfinder 2nd edition character, but I am sure we can all be 99% confident that a level 4 Pathfinder character is at least the equivalent of a level 4 5th edition character. One of the potential issues with system switching is the potential of accidentally nerfing a character when switching to a new system, especially one which favours a lower power setup. But there is a difference between accidentally nerfing characters and deliberately nerfing them because they might be getting too powerful under false pretenses. This is one of those situations where the DM needs to communicate with their players about what the intention of the campaign was, as well as doing research into alternative systems such as GLOG that would favour the low power setup that the DM seemed to be heavily favouring, and using that from the get-go. Either that, or run a much shorter campaign where the big bad evil guy is confronted and defeated before the low power setup reaches the point of high power. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed my content and would like to see more, feel free to subscribe and give the video a like. It's free to do, and every bit of support is highly appreciated. Plus, you can always change your mind at a later date. And with that, I shall see you all next time.